which is right in between Utah and Omaha beaches. Absolutely incredible site. These are craters and bomb blasts from the Allies. It's actually the Americans. This is American land here on the north part of France, which is about 20 miles from England. And the reason that it's in between Omaha and Utah beaches is because it's on a cliff, and 225 rangers scaled these 100-foot cliffs. When I say cliffs, we're talking about rocks. Out of the 225 rangers that scaled these 100-foot walls, it's absolutely incredible. 80 died, and these are rough numbers. 80 died, 90 were able to move on, and the rest were wounded and couldn't do anything, and they had to wait here. So we made it to Normandy. There's bunkers along the way as the car arrived. So you can see in the hills that were German bunkers as we stormed. It's a town now. I'll turn it around and you can see it. In that, so they stormed this, and it's, like I said, not warm out. They went up there, and then they went straight up there to the top, which is, by the way, directly up probably a 100-foot hill.
It's an American Sherman tank. You see one of those metal obstacles?
We are walking through the Normandy National Cemetery, and there's just under 10,000 men who are buried here and or remembered, and it's you can't even really put into words. It just puts in perspective what these men did, the sacrifice that they made. They're all facing west, and we think that they're facing west is obviously they're pointing home, which is the United States. 2,000 unknown soldiers and missing in action. There's a garden in the front before you walk in. There's also graves for them, but there's no bodies in there, where you have people that cannot be identified, and they're also out there. There's also little black dots next to people that later were identified. You know, July 4th, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, you know, all these days can be celebrated with barbecues and American flags and fireworks, but coming to something like this and it just really put in perspective, and it just goes like, I can't even, and this isn't even the largest one in France. You know, I went from Versailles, which is a absolute beautiful town, yesterday, and then you come here and you just absolutely humble yourself on how grateful you should be. And I don't even want to, yeah, it's lucky, but just that we did not need to go through this era, that we were not drafted, that we were not forced to land on Omaha Beach. The Air Force missed the target. Marines landed. They had a full German army, and that's why it was so brutal. And that's why Utah, which was more successful, the beach Utah, the Air Force actually hit their target. D-Day was June 6th. June 5th was awful weather, and there was only 3 days in the month that they could have done anything, and it was low tide, which they wanted, and obviously a full moon, and there was only 3 days each month. Bill D. Webb, who is from Michigan. He died on the day that I was born, which is July 13th. And obviously the years are off. I was able to be born maybe because of what Bill did, because of maybe what William Wallace did, because of what Henry Villa did, because of what Alvin Jeffords did, because of what Harold Leader did, because of Edward Rowling. We're all not gonna be here in a century. It's what you do here on this earth that matters. And if you just sit there and you complain, how about you put yourself on D-Day? How about you put yourself in the Battle of the Bulge? How about you put yourself as a paratrooper? How about you put yourself in, even today, present day countries outside of the United States that are not as blessed to have the freedoms and the joys. The reason I bring it up is because yesterday we were in Versailles, and if you're born poor, you stayed poor. If you were born wealthy, you probably would have stayed wealthy. If you're born into royalty, you were going to be royalty your whole life. Nowadays, because of the sacrifices of all these men, we're able to enjoy freedoms, and people say, you know, it's not perfect. It's never gonna be perfect, okay? We're always gonna find something else to complain about, and that's why I don't watch the news. And this is a rant based on the fact that these men out here sacrifice themselves so you can have a better life today. Now walking into Canes, which has the big right there, the World War II couple posing and kissing. The most comprehensive World War II exhibit I've ever seen in my life. It literally starts in 1918 at the end of World War I, which they call obviously the Great War. 11 million people dead, 21 million wounded and disappeared. 31 million wounded, disappeared, or dead. And then obviously they have the Treaty of Versailles, and I was in Versailles yesterday. It's humbling, it really is. Done with the Caen Normandy Memorial. It literally has stunning photographs that, little graphic, but I don't think would be in the United States. I would definitely check it out if you're in the area. Definitely do Omaha, definitely do Utah, the beaches, obviously Normandy, and the cemetery. You know, the cemetery is just, you're blown away. And obviously we're in Caen, which is south of Normandy. It's kind of out of the way, and if you don't know where you're going, you may get lost, but either way, this is one of the best museums I've ever seen on World War II, leading up to it, during it, and all the parts, including obviously the liberation.